Are you a first responder, a veteran, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, or a Let's Go Blues radio listener? Of course you are. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call real estate superstar Mike Burgoyne today at 314-753-4060 or email him at mike@strikewithmike.com to earn special rates today.
A proven winner on the hockey rink, Joe Wolf knows what it takes to be the best. That's why he has the best rates in the area and only has rave reviews of his work with Wolf Power Washing. Get that siding back to its original color with Joe. Call him at 314-420-5434. That's 314-420-5434.
Hi guys, this is Erica Weston with
Valley Sports West.
And you're listening to my favorite St. Louis Blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio.
I'm here for it. I'm here for all the hot takes.
I totally see Hoffman putting up 30, 35 goals.
In a 56-game season?
Yeah.
You know, Jeff, you were saying you didn't think he was going to score 20 goals next season.
I still think
that's
that.
A possible.
I mean, I will literally be happy to grab a live crow and eat it if Tarasenko comes back and scores 30, 40 goals in the NHL in a season.
With a last name like Bolduc, he's not going to play for us. There's just something about that last name is not going to make the NHL on this team. And for the Blues, I just don't see it happening. It seems like a name that is not conducive to play in the NHL.
Kurt Price is already making his claim that Zach Bolduc will never wear a Blues jersey in a regular season game.
No.
You are listening to the original and longest-running blues hockey podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. I'm your host, Jeff Ponder, and this is episode 34 of season 13 and number 465 all-time. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by Mike Burgoyne of Real Brokerage Realty. Contact Mike at strikewithmike.com or call him at 314-753-4060 and get started selling your current home or buying your new home today. And buy Wolf Power Washing, because you need to buy that, or you need to power wash that new home, right? If you're in the St. Louis area and need the services of a professional power washer, Joe Wolf is your guy. Call him at 314-420-5434 and get the best prices in the area. On today's show, we're talking Stanley Cup Final. That's right, it's finally here, folks. Friend of the show, if you've listened to this show for longer than a couple months. We've had somebody on a lot to talk about the Oilers over the years. Michael Hebert of OilersLive and Heavy Hockey Network, or heavyhockey.com. He joins us today, and we're going to talk about the crazy upswing in the Oilers season. There's some connections to the 2019 Blues for sure with the way that they have risen through the ranks. And then, of course, we're talking about their upcoming matchup against the Florida Panthers, which starts Saturday, June 8th. I believe it's 7 o'clock Central Time. So we will be talking with him at that time, talking about all the things that made up this Oilers team and just the success they've had, the incredible run they've gone on, and will Connor McDavid finally get that Stanley Cup? Michael Hebert has the answer. I'm kidding. He doesn't have the answer. But he will. We will discuss that. So before we get into anything, I do want to mention again that the Stanley Ponder Cup Memorial Tournament player signups have begun. If you're interested in playing, it's November 23rd, 2024. It starts at 11, goes until about 10:15 at night. It's an all-day tournament. It's at Midwest Sport Hockey, so that is a roller hockey tournament. It benefits Evelyn Parks, daughter of my friend Jake Parks. She was diagnosed with leukemia in late 2023, so all proceeds are going to go to the Parks family. Tournament player fee is $60. And again, I'll say, if you're not planning on playing, you're not have any interest in playing hockey, still circle that date, November 23rd, because we have plenty of awesome stuff going on, raffles. We have music playing. It's always a good time. People bring their kids. We always have fun with it. So November 23rd, 2024. And again, if you are interested in signing up and becoming a player in this tournament, you can go to dropinstl.com. That's dropinstl.com. And just go over to the navigation and look for the SPCMT Tourney tab. click that, and there's a player sign-up section that you can find in there as well. Actually, it's in the navigation as well. So make sure to check that out if you are interested. Well, before we get into talking about the Stanley Cup Final, the Blues did make a couple moves this past week, signed a couple prospects. So first they signed Juraj Pekarcik to a 3-year, 2-way entry-level contract. Pekarcik was drafted by the Blues in the 3rd round, 76th overall of the 2023 NHL Draft. He is 18 years old. He spent last season with Dubuque Fighting Saints of the USHL, posted 59 points, 9 goals, and 50 assists in 43 regular season games, with his 50 assists ranking 2nd overall in that league. He also recorded 10 points, 3 goals, and 7 assists in 11 postseason games with Dubuque, which ranked 2nd in the league. Again, this is a player that I've never seen play, so I'm not going to try and sit here and break down how good of a player he is. I'm not one of those people who, it's a bad draft pick. Oh, it's a great draft pick. I don't know. I outside of the top 20 players, typically, I'm kind of useless in terms of analysis. So I will go to my friends at the Elite Prospects 2023 NHL Draft Guide. What they had to say about Pekarcik before this the draft he was drafted in last year. They said Pekarcik's hockey sense is legitimate. He can see when a play is closed and when he needs to switch to a new lane or a different option, and he does that at quite a high pace. He's also involved away from the puck, and he understands attacking layers, that it's better for the offense if players aren't clogged but taking more space on the ice. He drives inside, passes quickly, and can dangle through sticks. So sounds like quite the playmaker. And again, 50 assists in the Dubuque regular season in 43 regular season games at 18 years old is pretty impressive. So clearly this kid has an eye for passing, setting up plays, starting the plays. Again, 3rd round pick. I don't think it's anybody we're going to see really anytime soon unless he just jumps off the map at prospect camp or at training camp. If he'll probably be there. Well, he will be there. I don't expect to see him this season, but I do think this is a guy that, looking at the stats and looking at what people are saying about him, potentially a good middle 6 player for the Blues down in a couple of years. So keep your eye out for Juraj Pekarcik. Blues also made one more signing this week. They signed left wing Jakub Stancl to a 3-year, 2-way entry-level contract. Stancl was drafted by the Blues in the 4th round, number 106 overall of the 2023 NHL Draft. He is 19 years old, spent last season with the Vasho, I'm going to guess, Lakers of the SHL, posting 1 goal in 7 regular season games. He also spent time with the Lakers' J20 team in Sweden's top junior hockey league, recording 14 points, 7 goals, 7 assists, and 12 penalty minutes in 28 regular season games. Again, this is a player that I've actually heard the name, and I think just from just doing research on the Blues, being like, oh, that Stancl guy, he's in the SHL. But I know nothing of this prospect, so I will rely on our friends again at Elite Prospects. They say at 6'3" and already over 200 pounds, Stancl can bulldoze his way through defenders to pick up loose pucks and create havoc on the forecheck. Stancl also has a heavy shot and can occasionally beat goalies from the half wall with a big one-timer. Sounds like Stancl and Pekarcik, maybe that's a good 1-2 punch in your middle 6 eventually. Again, though, this guy is a 4th-round pick. Got a little bit more ways to go in his development before we really start talking about an NHL career for this guy. But from what it sounds like, he's a good shooter and is good at forecheck. So he plays a great Craig Berube-style game. Unfortunately, Mr. Berube is no longer here, so hopefully he could fit in a system of the coach, whoever's here, in a couple of years when he's up here, if he's up here. And again, an SHL signing, so it makes you wonder, is this an Alexander Steen thing? It seems like the Blues are loading up on Swedes. So if Steen's doing his job correctly, this might be the haven for Swedish players. And we've seen some quite the amount of skill come from Sweden in the NHL. You know, you look at a guy like Nicholas Lidstrom, to me, one of the greatest players to ever play the game. And then, of course, you know, just other guys. You know, Detroit had an influx of Swedes come through. Nicholas Kronwall, Johan Franzen there for a little while. So definitely some skill there in Sweden. And looks like Steen is trying to get the Blues to be a more skilled team with guys that can definitely move the puck. And it sounds like, you know, Stancl's a guy that, again, 4th-round pick. He's got some ground to make up, but by all accounts, he signed his deal, which tells me the Blues are at least interested in seeing what he can do in the North American game. So should be interesting to see where this kid goes, where he ends up this season. If he goes on loan, maybe back to the SHL, or if he joins the AHL Thunderbirds or wherever he ends up, we'll see. So yeah, that's the two big Blues news from the past week. Now, keep in mind, this is the summer, so nothing crazy is happening, and it's free agency, so you know we're not getting crazy big news here. But it is good to see the Blues locking up some prospects and thinking about the future. And it does seem like some of these guys do have a future in the NHL. So we'll see who makes it and who doesn't. But let's talk about it right now. Let's not talk about the future. The Stanley Cup Final is slated to start on Saturday, and it is going to continue on through June. If you haven't seen the schedule, look it up. I don't know if anybody remembers the 2019 year, the Blues and Bruins. It felt like that series went on for about 5 weeks because the NHL was like 2 or 3 days between travel, and they just kept pushing it out and pushing it out. So, and now there is a lot more travel involved between Edmonton and Florida, so it kind of makes sense. But still, it's you're looking at it like, man, why do they have so many days off in between games? But travel for one, and two, I think it's just NHL's trying to extend out into the weekends as much as possible to boost those ratings. But we will talk more about the Stanley Cup Final with our friend Michael Hebert on the other end of this break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We'll return after these messages.
As a hockey player, Mike Burgoyne knows a thing or two about making the perfect play. And when it comes to real estate, he's always ready to score the winning goal for his clients. If you're a first responder, a veteran, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, or a Let's Go Blues radio listener looking to score the home of your dreams, you'll receive special rates with Mike. Go ahead, shoot some questions his way, and he'll have the answer quicker than Curtis Joseph on a breakaway.
Curtis Joseph got the paddle down!
Any barriers? Mike will mow them down like Chris Pronger in front of the net. He'll score you your dream home or sell your existing home faster than a Brett Hall one-timer.
Flip past the Hall. He shoots. He scores!
See Burgoyne's real estate prowess in action today by emailing him at mike@strikewithmike.com or by calling 314-753-4060. That email again is mike@strikewithmike.com, and that phone number is 314-753-4060. Getting Mike Burgoyne on your team will be the boost your power play needs.
Well, honey, I just priced the power washing for the house, and I think we should just move and condemn this place. It'll be cheaper.
Did you try Wolf Power Washing?
Who?
Oh, I just saw this guy win the Stanley Cup Memorial Tournament and thought he was attractive, so I looked him up on social media, and it turns out he's the owner and proprietor of Wolf Power Washing. He claims he has the best prices in town.
But does he use non-flammable, non-toxic chemicals that are safe for Wolfie and our son, little Magnus?
Yes, he ensures there'll be no residue left behind, and he doesn't use any volatile vapors.
Well, this fella sounds like a dream. I just wish I knew how to contact him.
Oh, I know how. You can reach him at 314-420-5434.
314-420-5434, and his name is Joe Wolf of Wolf Power Washing?
That's right.
But how did you know his number so quickly?
I'll never tell.
Wait, what?
That's Wolf Power Washing at 314-420-5434. And make sure to tell him Let's Go Blues Radio sent you.
And now, back to Let's Go Blues Radio, the longest running St. Louis Blues podcast with Price, Ponder, and Day.
All right, we are back from break, and I am joined from a friend of the show, someone we've had on, gosh, I can't even tell you how many times, Michael Hebert. He is the host of Oilers Live and the founder of HeavyHockey.com. Michael, again, we've had you on many, many times. There's obvious reasons we've got you on today. I think unless you're living under a rock, you know what that is. But Michael, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely happy to be here. I remember getting you on our show when the Blues were in the same spot, which feels like forever ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
It does, especially with the alcohol consumed by the entire city of St. Louis when that happened. But no, it was, for me, it was the same kind of thing when I saw, last year for the Panthers, when they got in, I thought, man, I know a couple Panthers friends. This is a huge deal. But now with the Oilers, I'm like, this is a huge deal for Oilers fans because, for those that don't know, the last time you saw a Stanley Cup Final was 2006, a very improbable run, but still, it's been a while. And before that, 1990, I believe, was the last time.
Yeah, you're accurate on all counts, and it feels like forever since the Oilers were in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I remember that well. It was such an amazing experience back then. I expect this to be the same, if not a little bit different. We had no Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and Evan Bouchard back in those days. As you said, it was a little bit more improbable in 2006, but maybe not so this year.
What are you talking about? You don't dismiss Michael Pekka. I mean, come on, that guy was a stud for you.
Yeah, him and Pronger, what a pickup in the summer.
Yeah. Still to this day, Chris Pronger, only defenseman to score on a penalty shot in a Stanley Cup Final game. So that's a fun little stat. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Yep.
I would say, we're far enough away from that now that most people don't hate Pronger anymore. In fact, they get a kick out of him because he had some great commercials with Marner and Draisaitl over the summer. But that was awesome, and what a great experience to have him. What a killer that guy is! Like, just unbelievable. I know we're both big fans.
Yes. You see the 44 over my shoulder, retired number now for the St. Louis Blues. Big deal for me. When that was the first thing I did when he got traded was I went up. That was before you could just easily order jerseys online. I'm dating myself here. I went up to my local sports shop and I said, I need an Oilers jersey with Pronger 44 on the back. And they said, we sell Blues jerseys. And I said, get me an Oilers jersey. And they went on and they actually had to order one. And they did. They had the stitching for me. And I had a Chris Pronger Oilers jersey before the season even started. So I remember coming home and telling my dad, and he was like, are you sure he's going to wear 44? And I'm like, oh, shit. Luckily,
who's going to argue with Pronger, right?
Yeah, right. So, Michael, obviously, there's a lot of talk of the Oilers. The improbable run of 2006 was the last time this happened. It's been a lot of rough, lean years for the Oilers since that time. They've gotten some great draft picks, obviously very talented players in the lineup right now. But for you, just the culmination of seeing this finally come to pass. I mean, a couple of years ago, it looked like maybe they were going to do it when they beat I don't remember who they beat in the first round, but they lost to San Jose in the second round. And then since then, there really hasn't been any playoff success.
They beat San Jose and then lost to Anaheim.
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's how it worked.
That's right.
And then, of course, losing to Vegas last year was heartbreaking. And you knew whoever came out of that series was likely to win the cup.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. It's, you know what? This is great. I mean, this is, everybody talks about McDavid with an asterisk, right? Like, there's no doubt he's got to be one of the top 4 players of all time. Like, he's on a different level. But until he wins that cup, everybody wants to put the asterisk there. I think people that watch him or have played against him probably don't need to need to have that cup for him to have a legacy. I mean, he's just so good, and hockey's a team game. one guy can't win a cup, but certainly if you're going to win a cup, it helps to have a guy like McDavid.
Yep. Yeah. And, you mentioned the asterisk of no cup yet, 9 years in the NHL. It reminds me of a player both of us are very familiar with, Curtis Joseph. That was always the talk for Curtis Joseph is he a Hall of Famer? No, he didn't win a Stanley Cup. And obviously McDavid's on a little bit higher of a level than Curtis Joseph, but you think of players like that, Jeremy Roenick, that's always the knock on them was they never won a Stanley Cup. You know that McDavid not only wants to win it for himself, but for his legacy.
Yeah. And, I think if you go back to last game and see that first goal, which I've probably watched 1,000 times now, that he's going to do everything in his power to get the Oilers there, right? Like he's at such a different level, as the Oilers continue. And the great thing about the Oilers this year is he's not the only one, right? I mean, Draisaitl is, arguably in the top 4 players in the league at this time, right? Evan Bouchard is breaking defensive records, right? Zach Hyman is coming off of over 50-goal season and continues to produce goals. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is quietly putting up points and sitting close to the top 5 in scoring for the Oilers. So the whole team's kind of there, and they're all contributing. And so that makes, the Connor McDavid piece that much easier, I think. But when's the last time you saw a team with this many superstars on it in the final, right?
I will tell you, every time the Blues had the Oilers on the calendar this year, I thought, this is not going to be a fun night. Just because, you got guys like, the thing I always see about McDavid, and I actually think I talked about this last week with Coach Jeremy from How to Hockey. Connor McDavid, the way that he plays the game, it's him and Nathan McKinnon to me, 1 and 2 in this sense, because they can skate the puck up and take a hard, accurate wrist shot while in stride. They don't have to stop and set. They just go, shot, boom, goal. And it's just, to me, that is the most impressive thing because, Michael, I know you play hockey, and I'm sure you're, fine in your own right. Have you ever even considered mid-stride going as fast as you can, taking a good, hard, accurate shot? It's almost impossible for people like us.
I will tell you, I went full speed ahead tonight. I was playing hockey.
Oh, yeah?
And, I wasn't that. There was no accuracy on that shot, but I did get the shot away. In my full speed, granted, is probably about half speed for Connor McDavid. But what he does at the speed he does it is at another level.
It's just impossible for me to fathom. Last week I was talking about how I did a spinorama in one of my games, and my teammates were like, "Oh my gosh!" And I get back to the bench, and we're all like, "Yeah, to an NHL player, that was like quarter motion." That, it looked like it was a replay at the time. But hey, it was spinorama for a beer league guy. I'll take it.
Exactly.
Yep. So for you, obviously you mentioned some names there of guys that are just putting up big numbers. You mentioned Nugent Hopkins, who no one's even talking about, scoring 20 points so far in 18 games, which is super impressive for a second-line center. But for you, when you look at this roster, we all, not saying we expected McDavid and Draisaitl to do what they're doing, but, you kind of expect greatness from them. During this run they've made in the playoffs here, who has been the kind of surprise, or what has been the surprise to you from this team?
Yeah, I'll tell you this because as you know, it's hard to watch every single game in the NHL. There's just too much hockey going on.
Yep.
Right. I get my Blues information from the guys at Let's Go Blues Radio. Right. You know what I mean? I get my Maple Leafs information from whatever Sportsnet, TSN here in Canada. And I try to watch as many games as I can, but I might watch over the course of a season. I'll watch when the Blues play the Oilers, right? But they play the Oilers. Everybody plays the Oilers a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they've got McDavid, they've got Draisaitl, they've got Evan Bouchard. So it's not going to give you an accurate depiction of a team, right? And the same thing on any given night. If you've watched the Oilers, if you're from an Eastern Conference team, you've watched the Oilers twice in a season, right? You can't accurately understand what the Oilers bring to the table, right? Yeah. Whereas as an Oilers fan and somebody who podcasts and does, the site about the Oilers, I watch every single game. I don't miss a minute. Right? Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah. Like if I've got hockey that night, I've PVR'd it and I go home, I come home and I watch the game. And sometimes not only do I not miss a minute, but I've watched the same play over 20 times. And then we write about it, then we talk about it, and we start to understand the team just like you do with the St. Louis Blues.
Right.
So it shouldn't be any surprise to you when you go on a different show and you talk about the St. Louis Blues, some of the preconceptions that people have about the Blues that just aren't true. Right?
Yes. Yep.
And it can be frustrating as a fan. Now you take that with a team that's got two absolute superstars in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and a guy like Evan Bouchard even, right? And everybody thinks that that's the team, right?
Yep.
And let's be honest, Besser was out for the Canucks in the last game of that series, and the Canucks struggled, right? Now, Does anybody say the Canucks are only good if Besser's in the lineup? No. But the truth is, if your best players on any team are out of the lineup, you're going to be a different team, right?
Yep.
So, it's not fair, in my opinion, for everybody to look at the Oilers and think they're just a one-dimensional team led by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. When the team won 16 in a row this year, you can't do that on the backs of two guys, right?
That's definitely true.
Yeah. Right? You need other players. And so the guys that have stepped up that don't get maybe the notice and maybe aren't even in the playoffs because, when you look at the stats page today, it's all superstars from the Edmonton Oilers leading the scoring.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see Janmark's name up there, right? He's a third, fourth liner at best. If you watch him play, the guy never makes a defensive mistake. Right? You watch, Connor Brown, who was maligned throughout the whole season, right? Obviously.
Yep.
He's been outstanding the last 4 or 5 games for Edmonton, chasing after the puck and doing the things that these third and fourth liner guys are supposed to do. And so I think maybe it's not a surprise to me, but I think it's starting to be a surprise to everybody. It's just how deep the team truly is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is showing in one of the most important areas of their game, which is the penalty kill, which I will tell you that Evan Bouchard, Connor McDavid, and Leon Draisaitl do not touch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. For good reason.
Yeah. And so, I would tell, any listener or anybody, like, you have to legitimately watch this team. And then, if like people think Evan Bouchard is a defensive nightmare, he's plus 14.
That's
in
solid.
The playoffs. He's leading the league in plus minus and like doing things from a points perspective that nobody's done since the dynasty era of the Oilers, right? And somebody who happens to be behind the bench for Edmonton, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of things this team's starting to do really well. And when you think about this team, and as I said, it's not a surprise to me, but it might be a surprise to other people is the depth that's coming. Knobloch is bringing guys in and out of the lineup on a regular basis, right? And you can only do that if you have depth guys in the organization that can play when they're called upon.
Yeah. And
the Oilers are able to do that. So there's not a lot of surprises for me, but I've watched every game.
Yeah, right.
And so I kind of like when this team won 16 in a row, people had all sorts of reasons why they won 16 in a row. But Oilers fans knew they won 16 in a row because they're good.
Yeah. Good
right?
hockey team.
Yeah, they're a good hockey team. Like people need to give them a little bit more credit. Now they're there, right?
And I think some of the people that maybe were, I don't want to say shocked, but surprised by the run this team went on was because of the start they had. Chris Knobloch, not Chuck Knobloch, who I like to say is the one man who took out Keith Olbermann's mom. Look that story up if you don't know what that is.
Definitely will. Yeah.
Chris Knobloch stepped in for Jay Woodcroft. 32 games for Knobloch. He went 26-6, which is that's ridiculous. That's a Blues 2019 run right there. I mean, that's insane. And when he took over, they were 4th in the division. Is that correct?
Yeah, they were in 31st place in the league.
Again, shades of 2019 Blues right there.
Oh, yeah, and I was kind of waiting for you to call on me for this reason, because you and I were in awe back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, the Blues had a great team. They just were underperforming at the start, right?
Yep.
And the same goes for the Oilers, right? And they just needed to find, who knows? I mean, Woodcroft, who would have thought? He had a great season the year before.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever it was, and we, being part and around this team and doing some of these things, we've heard some rumors. He just couldn't get it done. And Knobloch, rookie coach too, might add, right? I did a tweet during the last series, because the storylines pre-Dallas Stars series, where Dallas had more depth, DeBoer had more coaching experience, and Ottinger was a better goaltender. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Ottinger. The guy is stellar.
Yes, he is.
But with the goalie in the crease, Edmonton outscored Dallas, right? So Skinner outperformed Ottinger as long as they were in the crease.
Yep.
Knobloch made all of the changes he needed to make. He brought people in and out of the lineup, right? Which speaks to the depth and the experience of the coaching, right? And so all of those things that were the storyline just weren't true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I can think of is the folks that write these storylines just didn't spend enough time watching Oilers games this year.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not easy, right?
We talk about that on our show all the time. Our listeners are relating to you right now because we're in the Central Time Zone. You're in the Mountain Time Zone.
Yeah.
Most of these writers are on the East Coast, so they know all about the East teams, and they know some about the Central teams. But teams in the Pacific Division, forget about it. You ain't getting the coverage that I know you want. So, yeah, a lot of these people are, and I was always laughing, something we talked about on the show, when Arizona was still in the playoff conversation. And, the East Coast writers were, well, who's Toronto going to go and get for a goalie? Maybe Jordan Binnington from St. Louis. Maybe Connor Ingram from Arizona. And I'm like, they're in the playoff hunt. Why would they trade their goalies?
Yeah.
So it's just funny, like the dichotomy between the writers on the East Coast versus anyone covering the teams in the Central and West.
And it's fair, right? Like I'm based out east and farther out east now. I'm on Atlantic time, where I do all of this. And the Oilers games don't start out here till sometimes 10. There was a playoff game this year that started at 10 to midnight Atlantic time. Now, I'm a night owl, so it works fine for me. But, there's not a lot of people out there like me, right?
Right.
Like, they're not, even guys that I know love hockey, they'll PVR it and watch it in the morning sometimes, if they watch it at all.
Right.
Or they'll watch Sportsnet does this game in 30 minutes where they take the important highlights and they'll watch that, and that'll be there. But you got to watch all the aspects of a game, right?
Yeah.
Like to understand, if a defenseman, you can't just watch every goal that he screws up on.
No.
You got to watch how he plays every shift, right?
Yep.
Like that's the only way you get to understand a team.
Yeah, I had somebody argue with me on Twitter because I'm not sure how aware Oilers fans are that Colton Parayko had a very good comeback year for the St. Louis Blues this year. And I got in an argument with somebody because he was saying that Parayko had a really bad game. And I called him out, and I go, yeah, on that one goal, he looked bad. But other than that, he played great. He was, stretch passes were awesome. Getting the puck out of the zone, wasn't icing it. And the guy even responded after like 3 or 4 tweets, well, I only watched the highlights. Well, yeah, you saw the one bad play he made all game. Of course you think he had a bad game.
That is true. And I want folks to like really understand that, right? Like is to get that and try to talk to people that watch the team, right?
Right.
If the Oilers columnists are all saying the team sucks or lacks depth or needs better goaltending, then maybe that's true. But if some guy that's sitting in Toronto or New York says that, and that he's never stayed up late enough,
yeah, right.
Maybe just ask the question, right? Like,
yep.
Is it actually true?
Agree with that.
Yeah.
So again, you mentioned the goaltending. Stuart Skinner had a nice little bounce back in that last round. He did miss a game earlier this playoff. Calvin Pickard had to come in and play for him because he had a rough outing against. Was that against Dallas?
No, against Vancouver.
Vancouver, yeah, that's right.
Pickard came in and did well for a couple of games. Gave
right.
Skinner.
So, and let's not forget, going into the season, your starting goalie was Jack Campbell. So the goaltending has been very interesting to watch in Edmonton. So has it been something that has kind of changed under Knobloch? Like, did he kind of jump in and say Stuart Skinner's our guy, or was it like someone proved to me you can be a starter here? What was the change that led to Skinner becoming the number one guy?
Yeah, I think Jack Campbell was always going to be on a short leash, right? There's a lot of fear with him. For him, it's a mental game. When he's on the mental game, Jack Campbell's a great goalie. I mean, he was in the All-Star game just a couple of years ago, right?
Yep.
And so the hope was that he'd get that back, right?
Yep.
And he just never did. And again, like these are the types of things that we admire as fans of the Oilers right now, is that Knobloch makes the tough decisions when they need to be made, right? Skinner wasn't great the first couple games in the Vancouver series, and Skinner does that. Sometimes he'll have an off game, and then he'll come back with another 34 save performance like he did in a clutch game, right? And he's not, when I look at him, he's not like a Shesterkin, right? Like Shesterkin is just, he's all over the place. He's making saves that you're just like, I can't believe he made that save, right? Like guys that like goalies that truly goalie you, right? Stuart Skinner is just a solid goaltender. Like he understands the game. If the defense are playing the way the defense can, Skinner will keep you in the game, and he'll have those 34 save games, right? But he's not Shesterkin, and probably Bobrovsky's you could say is better than him. You could have said Ottinger is better than him. But I go back to what I said earlier, is it's a team game, right?
Yep.
And so the defense need to be better. And they've done that, right? Like the penalty kill has been outstanding to help out, and all these little things. I don't want to take anything away from Skinner, though. When he needs to, he's making the saves. And, we know a guy, you and I, and you've had him on your show, that made the saves when he had to. And
number 31.
Yeah. And sometimes he didn't make a lot of saves.
Yeah.
Right? But he made the ones where he had to. And he's in the Hall of Fame now. So Grant Fuhr, of course, we're talking about.
Yep.
And I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing Skinner to Fuhr by any stretch. But he's getting the job done when he has to right now. And so, as fans, we believe in him. We believe he can do it. But we also believe that one of the big differences between Woodcroft and Knobloch is if Knobloch has to, he'll bring in Picard again. And he won't hesitate.
Yeah. And I love that in a coach. I love a coach that he knows what he's going to do. And I feel like that's how Craig Berube was for the Blues and probably will be with Toronto. Hey, I'm going to make this switch. I'm just going to do it. I don't give a shit what you say about it. And I love that. I'm going to sit David Perron down the stretch in 2019. What? Yeah, he's playing awful. I'm going to sit him. And guess what? David Perron sits a game, comes back, scores like 15 goals in 18 games or something, and it's like, clearly these people, these coaches, and that's what I always tell fans. I'm like, you're not the coach. And I know it is so easy for us to sit here and prognosticate and just say, this is what they should have done. They should do this. They should do that. At the end of the day, these guys are the coaches for a reason. Craig Berube, Jay Woodcroft, these guys know more hockey than I will. They will forget about more hockey than I will ever know.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you just have to trust they're going to make the right decision. And so far, Knobloch seems like the guy that's making all the right decisions.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even about making the right decision. It's about making a decision.
True.
Right? And just being steadfast by that and owning it. It may backfire. Who knows? But putting Pickard in the middle of that Vancouver series paid dividends. And Pickard's a capable goalie if he's not playing every night.
Yep. I agree.
And he showed that. And so, it's nice to have that in your back pocket, but to be fair, I mean, the Oilers just have to be good defensively. Right.
Yep.
They're not going to, it's a rarity when any Oilers goalie has goalied the other team. There's not a lot of times where we've watched a game as Oilers fans and say, whoa, a goalie kept us in that one. It's happened. Yep. I'll give Skinner. There's been a couple games during the season, especially during that 16-game run streak. There were a couple games that Skinner kept them in, but it didn't happen as often as a guy like Shesty or Bobrovsky or, and Binnington has been great on occasion, right? And,
100%.
Yeah.
So looking forward to this upcoming series. I don't know if you have put a whole lot of thought. I'm not asking for a prediction quite, but just because we always say that at the beginning of every season on the show. We're like, we hate doing predictions, but we know that's what people want to hear, so we'll do it. But I'm more asking you in terms of a matchup against a Florida team, high flying. They got big guys. They got guys that like to shove and argue and fight after every whistle. How do you think Edmonton's going to fare against this Florida team?
Yeah. Look, Florida's good. I mean, this is their second go at the Cup, right? Yep. Vegas was considerably better than they were last year, but this is not even the same Florida team. This is an improved Florida team from last year. But Bobrovsky's been playing great during the playoffs. Much has been made of the defense on Florida with Forsling and Ekblad just being outstanding, defensemen. But I'll say this: they've not yet faced a McDavid and a Draisaitl and an Evan Bouchard and a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. They're staring down the barrel of 6 of the top 7 scorers in the playoffs so far. Right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I would tell you if it was just 2 guys that were doing that, then, you could say Forsling and Ekblad got it covered, right? Because that's the Rangers, right? Panarin and Kreider, right? And they shut them down. But this is a couple guys on a couple of different lines doing unbelievable things. So I'll just tell you, it's going to be a good series. I think I wanted Florida for one. I'll just tell you this because Oilers fans hate Tkachuk. I know you guys have a love for, the
We do. They're St. Louis boys, the Tkachuks.
for the dad
Yes,
there.
we
Yeah.
do. Yep.
But we hate Tkachuk. Oilers have owned Tkachuk over the years, right? Like he's tried to get under their skin. Evander Kane owned him the last time. The two of them went head to head, and Evander Kane looks like he'll be ready to play. So I'll just say this: what I'm not worried about is how we match up against Florida. What I am worried about is a team that's the second time at the Cup.
Right?
They
got the hunger.
Right. And as Oilers fans, we know what that's all about. When the Oilers lost the Stanley Cup and they came back with a vengeance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh Penguins, right? They lost the Stanley Cup. They came back with a vengeance, right? Like there's stories of this. If you're not a Buffalo Bills fan, there's stories about this all across every league, right? Known to man. And so that's my biggest concern is just that these guys were there last year. And they'll have that hunger, right? Like they know what it's going to take. But I believe in the Oilers. I believe that, that just the run they're having, the what they're doing, all the things they're doing right. I think that they're going to surprise the folks that believe Florida's going to take them out.
I did see a very funny tweet from a Flames person I follow that said, really, at this point, who are you actually rooting for? Because Flames fans now hate Matthew Tkachuk.
As they should, yeah.
And so it's like, do you root for Matthew Tkachuk's team or do you root for the Oilers? And I saw somebody respond like, can we just hope that that game one just goes on forever and it never ends? and it's like, as a hockey fan, yeah, I'm all for that. Give me 10 overtimes. But yeah, I just think that's funny that there's Flames fans that are actually like, well, Canada could get a cup. Maybe we have to root for Edmonton. It's like, I can never imagine a scenario where Blues fans were rooting for the Blackhawks. Like it's just never going to happen.
Well, and last year I had the same turmoil. Like I hated Tkachuk. I still always have. Right. Now, if he was on the Oilers, I'd love the guy, but he's not.
Favorite player.
Yeah. And so instead I hate him. And I wanted him to lose. I didn't want him to win last year, but I really didn't want Vegas to win either. So it was like, I was kind of caught. I feel for this is a momentary lapse, but I feel for Flames fans.
Yes, I do too. I got to ask now, since we're talking about it, what do you think? What's going to happen? What's the final?
Yeah, I do think the Oilers are going to take it. I think it's going to be 6 or 7. I think that, though, like any series, and especially with the Oilers not having home game advantage, everything matters in these first 2 games. And if for some reason Edmonton can't get a split, then I'd be worried. Yeah. But I think the Oilers will surprise everybody. Florida won the season series, but the Canucks won our season series against Edmonton too, and this is not the same team. Playoffs are a whole different ball of wax, so to speak. But Florida's a good team. I wouldn't take anything away from them. They've got up and down. They're pretty solid team. Some good defense and definitely goaltending. It's a strong point.
I'll tell you that I, up until the Eastern Conference Final, I had a perfect bracket. First time it's ever happened. And so I picked the Rangers, but the Panthers made it. Yeah. But I did pick the Oilers to win the cup. Nice. So part of me wants, because I love Matthew Tkachuk. I know you hate him, but that's fine. Yeah. You should hate him. If you liked him, I'd be like, there's a problem with Michael. Why does he like Matthew Tkachuk? Yeah. But no, I'm partially kind of rooting for the Oilers there. And then my wife is a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. And I told her what your coach said about the Buffalo Bills. And she was like, okay, now I'm rooting for Edmonton.
Right on.
She's like,
right
that
on.
guy just got me on the bandwagon.
I like her already.
Yeah, that's right. So,
That's awesome.
all right. Well, Michael, actually, you know what? I do want to ask you one more question.
All right.
There's always, and it's funny because you hear different sides from the fans in Canada. And that's always people down here are like, what do Canadians want? Do you get more of a sense that other Canadian teams' fans are now rooting for the Oilers? Or do you think, for the most part, Canada's just like, I just want my team to win the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, it's a mix. There's definitely some guy. I think deep down, most people don't want to see the Oilers win.
Yeah.
Right. Like people are still a little bit angry about the lottery picks and angry about the Oilers having McDavid. If they're anything like me, though, like I'll be honest, I never want to see another Canadian team win the Stanley Cup except the Oilers. Like, think about it. If Florida wins the Cup, right, nobody's going to chirp you ever, even in St. Louis. But if think about it. If Chicago won the Cup, I know you've got Chicago Blackhawks friends, right? Like fans, right? You'll hear about it till the end of the day, end of the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so, if the Maple Leafs win the Cup, like, I'm going to have to walk around with like earplugs because I'd have to hear about it all the time.
Yep.
And so, if fans are anything like me, they don't want a team with fans to win the Cup.
Yeah, right.
Like if Phoenix won the Cup year over year, now Salt Lake City, who would care other than a couple folks in Salt Lake City that maybe watched a couple games, right?
Right.
But yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of people out there they might be flying the Oilers flag right now because they feel like it's their Canadian duty to see the Cup come back to Canada. But deep down, they're not going to be disappointed if the Oilers lose.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'd be like, oh, c'est la vie.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
I will say that part of me is really rooting for the Oilers, not just because of my bracket, but because I am someone who loves just chaos and anarchy. So watching what's going on in Toronto right now is just, it's been bliss. I'm sure it is for you too, for like years now. And I'm like, man. And so it's like, if Edmonton wins a cup before Toronto, I will just, they're going to be like, what is happening? And they're going to be losing their minds. So I'm all for it. Go Edmonton.
Yeah. One quick question before you let me go is, where do you think Marner is going to end up?
So I made a bold prediction. I actually co-hosted the Puck podcast recently.
Nice.
And I made a bold prediction. Mitch Marner will be on the Salt Lake hockey team. He'll be in Utah.
Oh, wow.
I think they're going to be looking to make a big splash somehow, and I can see them making a big play for Mitch Marner. So that's my bold prediction for next season.
Yeah. I can't wait to get out to a game there.
Oh, yeah, me too. That'd be awesome. Let's coordinate. We should go together. That'd be great.
We absolutely should. You're right.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, Michael, always fun talking with you. I want to give you a minute here before we close up to let people know how they could find your show. Clearly, a lot of important coverage coming in the next couple weeks. Stanley Cup Final starts Saturday, 7 o'clock here in St. Louis, 8 o'clock Eastern. That is in Florida to start. But with people wanting to ramp up for the final and then, of course, coverage during the final, where can they find all of your work?
Yeah, so, I'd say start with heavyhockey.com. Lots of great writers there. We've got, deep dives into the series. There's in particular, there's an article there that you'll love, Jeff, because I know how much you love, like, when things sort of align. And there's a lot of parallels in how the teams were made and the trades that happened and what happened to get, Draisaitl and Bennett and Ekblad, because they're all from the 2014 draft, right? And so that's a good article on heavyhockey.com. Oilers Live, our live stream goes every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Mountain. So we'll be on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Mountain, and you can find us at edmontonsportstalk.com if you search that up on iHeartRadio. or on TuneIn. You can listen to us live there, or just go to youtube.com/heavyhockey and tune in there.
That's awesome. Michael, good luck to your team. Good luck to you covering the final. And I think no matter what after the final, let's go ahead and say this. After Edmonton wins the Stanley Cup, we will have to catch up again, because I'm sure the fans will love to hear from you again on your take and how the finals went. So always appreciate it, Michael. Thank you very much for coming on the show, and thanks for being a continued friend of Let's Go Blues Radio. So again, I want to thank Michael Hebert of Oilers Live and HeavyHockey.com. Again, a good friend of mine, somebody that I'm talking about collaborating on some things with in the future. So we'll see if anything comes of it. He actually has, we talk about friends of the show all the time, but Michael Hebert has become an actual friend of mine. It's amazing with this show, some of the people that have become actual friends just from doing this show. I think of Amanda Levier, who hopefully will be on soon to talk about her championship, which, by the way, I should have mentioned that at the start. Congratulations, Amanda Levier and the Minnesota PWHL team. They have captured the first women's hockey championship in the PWHL. So very exciting, and I cannot wait to have Amanda on to talk about how exciting that was for her, how big of a moment it was for her and her teammates. That is just so awesome, and I'm so happy for her, and I just wish that we had more of a reason to talk about the PWHL here on Let's Go Blues Radio. But I know I'm not going to pretend that every person that listens to Let's Go Blues Radio has any interest in the Minnesota hockey team, considering Minnesota's basically a rival city for hockey fans. So it's just a shame, because I would love to, because they're fun to watch. They've Taylor Heisey. They've got some excellent talent on that team. So congratulations to the Minnesota PWHL team. Hopefully you get a cool name next year that we can call you. But especially friend of the show, Amanda Levier. That's awesome. So happy for you. But anyway, so next week, we'll see. I know I've said that the last couple weeks. It's just been kind of flying by the seat of my pants at this point, early in the summer, but I'm hoping by the end of free agency starting, so in July, I'll have things a little bit more mapped out. It's just a little crazy right now because we're still kind of, week to week on getting people in, but once we start scheduling these things a little better, I'll have a better idea of when people will be on and when you can expect all of our shows. But for right now, I'd say just stick on Wednesdays. That's typically when we release our shows. So that'll do it. Let's wrap her up. Support for Let's Go Blues Radio is brought to you in part by Mike Burgoyne from Real Brokerage Realty. Email him at mike@strikewithmike.com today for all of your home buying and selling needs. That's Mike at strikewithmike.com. And by Wolf Power Washing, St. Louis's premier power washing company with the best rates in town. Call Joe Wolf at 314-420-5434 and get the best looking and greatest power washer in the area. That's 314-420-5434. That'll do it for episode 34 of season 13 of the original St. Louis Blues Hockey Podcast, Let's Go Blues Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great week, everyone. For Kurt Price, Bill Day, and producer Austin, I'm Jeff Ponder, and I will talk with you next week. This was Let's Go Blues Radio. Until next time, everyone, let's go Blues, and let's go PWHL Minnesota.
The Chiefs are at home tonight against Cyanosport at the War Memorial at 8. Good seats are still available. A look at sport. I think that went very well.
Thank you for listening to Let's Go Blues Radio. Now take off, hosers.
I want you to have a heart attack and die so that we never have to do this shit again.
Well, there's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Sorry.
St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Blues. Have you heard the news about our St. Louis Blues? They've only just begun, they're on their way to number one. Now there's no more blues for our St. Louis Blues. The Blues are on the ice tonight again. They're rough and tough and got the stuff to win. They'll always get one one more, no matter what the score. They are quite a hockey team, my friend.